about the exploits of Charlemagne and his various Christian knights, emphasizing the feudal traditions of knighthood and chivalry. The first French songs of heroic deeds emerged during and after the reign of Charlemagne, such as the Song of Roland, about the death of Charlemagne's valiant commander. And these were the seeds of French literary tradition. Charlemagne is considered the father of Europe for being the first emperor of Western Europe, following the collapse of Rome, and ruling over an area covering Italy, France, Spain, and Germany, and uniting them in culture and religion. But he's also the father of Europe in the biological sense. Charlemagne had 20 children. Among them, a few carried on his empire until it fell apart due to infighting among his grandsons. Ironically, this fracturing, along with the Viking invasions, ensured that his descendants spread across Europe. They married into Slavic states, Scandinavia, Greece, and the Middle East through the Crusades. Through the reproduction of his children, and many of them had many children because they were wealthy and could afford enough food and nutrition and medical care, that many of their children survived into adulthood, which was not common at the time. Because of that, the number of Charlemagne's descendants is absolutely staggering, with some estimates as high as half the population of Europe. So 250 million of his descendants are in Europe, 100 million of his descendants are in the United States, and another 250 million across the rest of the world. Closer than not to 1 billion of his descendants survive today. At the end of Charlemagne's life, the future of Francia, his realm, was in flux, and it'd be left to his offspring to hold together his vast empire he had amassed and to further the strategy of consolidation under one Christian culture that began with his grandfather, and it led in many forms to the resurgence of the Roman Empire itself. Yes, it never existed again in the form it existed centuries earlier, but Charlemagne, more than anyone else, hammered out what medieval Europe would become. Hey everyone, Scott here. One more brief word from our sponsors. All right, so that's an overview of Charlemagne's life and an introduction to the Middle Ages. In the next episode, we're going to look at the times and culture of the High Middle Ages. We'll look at the practice of the church giving out indulgences, which was a great way for it to fund the Crusades, which we'll also look at, and plus explore some of the military orders that came out of the Crusades, like the Knights Hospitaller and the Knights Templar, that are the source of a lot of conspiracy theories, but they did things like invent the modern-day banking system that we have today. That's all for this episode, and we'll see you next time. All right. Well, that is the episode for today, and I really appreciate you listening because it's you, the audience, that makes this show happen. And it's also you, the audience, that grows this show. First of all, I'd like to thank the Knowlton's Rangers, and especially our spy masters, Baron Fraser, Carl from Norway, Chris from Maine, Moondoggy from Ohio, and Rick Knowlton, and I'll explain what that means in a second. If you would like to help support this show and help it reach new listeners who haven't discovered it yet, there's 4 easy ways for you to do it. First, subscribe to the show and leave us a review on the listening app of your choice. If you want to do that, you can go to historyunpluggedpodcast.com. 2, like us on Facebook and share posts about new episodes. 3, check out sponsors for the show. This is the best way to help me pay the bills because if sponsors see the audience is interested in their products, they will keep advertising. 4, you can become a member of the Knowlton's Rangers. The Knowlton's Rangers were an elite reconnaissance and espionage detachment of the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War, but it's also the name of the History Unplugged membership program. Learn how to join by going to patreon.com/unplugged. So here's what you get if you become one of the Knowlton's Rangers. If you join at the level of Scout, you can get early access to new podcast episodes, along with enjoying absolutely every single episode of the History Unplugged podcast ad-free. All 270 and counting episodes. If you join at the level of Intelligence Officer, you can also get access to premium episodes, like a multi-part series on the life of Audie Murphy, the most decorated combat soldier in World War II, or the 10-part series Ottoman Lives, a series that looks at the cast of characters that made up the Ottoman Empire, such as the Sultan, the eunuch, the harem servant girl, and the soldier. And finally, if you join at the level of Spy Master, you get all the same stuff as the scouts and intelligence officers, but you also get a shout-out to you and or your business at the end of each episode, a 3-pack of hardcover history books, plus you will be put at the very front of the line for me to answer your question about history, and I can guarantee I will dedicate an episode that's about an hour long or so to your question. Sign up at patreon.com/unplugged. Again, that's patreon.com/unplugged. Anyway, those are the ways you can help out the show. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for listening to the History Unplugged podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get your daily dose of all things history related, from ancient Greece to the Cold War. We'll see you next time at the History Unplugged podcast.